In yesterday's video, we talked about how Mercedes was left anxious by their fast developments. What if they ended up not understanding their car for a second time in 2 years? The comments from Mercedes seemed somewhat genuine, and when thinking about it, realistic. Better to understand the current car and find out where improvement is needed, than blindly upgrading it in the hope you're getting closer to the front. But it seems like this is all just a smokescreen for quick developments Mercedes are hoping to introduce. Starting with the British Grand Prix, it could be a big one no one is expecting, according to George Russell. It'll be interesting to see what Mercedes are planning to do with their current car. And next to these upgrades for this year, the Mercedes Formula One team is expected to place an emphasis on upgrading its suspension for 2024, having realised there's a rich seam of development, according to Andrew Chauvelin. Drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have expressed concerns about the W14's rear axle. This is due in part to the cockpit being put further front than in previous years, but any resolution will have to wait until a whole new chassis is built for next season. Mercedes applied a revised front suspension setup for the Monaco Grand Prix last month as part of its big upgrade package that carried more traditional side pods as a more immediate cure for the anxious handling. The relocated wishbone was largely intended to improve airflow and cooling conjunction with the redesigned side pod idea. However, the increased flexibility to modify geometrics enhanced stability. Mercedes engineering director Chauvelin said, "It is a case of trying to play with those geometrics to get an influence on the aero platform to try and get a bit more stability in the car. It's probably given us more freedom because the issue that we always had prior to that was getting good front end when you needed it at the apex and good entry stability when you're hard on the brakes and turning in. That compromise was always something that we couldn't resolve. You're always left with either a weak rear on entry or a poor front at apex, so hopefully that's moved us in the right direction." However, because these changes were made in the middle of the season to meet the original concept and come during an era of expense caps that limit progress, they will always be a compromise. As a result, Chauvelin anticipates that custom suspension, particularly at the back of the car, will be a primary priority for the 2024 Mercedes when the budget ceiling and aerodynamic testing constraints are restored. He explained, "Fundamentally, we've done a new suspension this year. Suspensions are expensive things to bring to the car. So the reality is, with the cost cap, we're always looking at the championship situation. We don't know how much we will do. I wouldn't expect that we're going to be making massive strides. What we've realised is there's actually quite a rich seam of development here that we can start to look at, so those programs are working. But the challenge is always how you get your aerodynamics and your vehicle dynamics to work together and optimize. Every team's up to that kind of process. But it's looking at where are the opportunities and how can you bring the two together so they work as one package. So that will be Mercedes' main focus for next year. But what about this year? Will they stand any chance against the dominance of Red Bull? Or will they have to focus on securing the second position in the Constructors' Championship? What do you think? One thing is certain, and that is that Mercedes will always try to improve. And that is exactly what they will aim to do in Canada. Yes, their car is less suited, but they're always up for the challenge. Thus, Mercedes will be looking to improve on its double podium finishes at the Spanish Grand Prix in Canada. Despite taking a significant stride forward with the W14 improvements, Toto Wolff believes it will be extremely tough to replicate the performance of Spain. As Toto Wolff says in Mercedes' Canadian Grand Prix preview, that the gap to Red Bull is large and it will take a lot of hard work to close that down. But Mercedes is up for the challenge. The result in Spain was a well-deserved reward for everyone's efforts at Brackley and Brixworth to bring our update package to the track. We were pleased with how it performed and it will provide a new baseline for us to build from, Wolff said, tempering expectations for the upcoming weeks. According to the team manager, at least one W14 will be on the podium every weekend for the remainder of the season. It was a circuit that suited our car, and we should expect our direct competitors to be stronger in the next races. The gap to Red Bull is large, and it will take lots of hard work to close that down. Nevertheless, we're up for the challenge." Following the Grand Prix in Spain, Mick got his first opportunity to drive the W14. He settled in well during the Pirelli tyre test and enjoyed the experience. Mick has become a valuable member of the team already, and his work in the simulator has proved useful in finding lap time, as we saw in Barcelona. Mercedes and their team look ready to rock the stage again, and the stage is now set for Canada. This weekend's Canadian Grand Prix is the season's official 9th Grand Prix, 8th if we're not recounting Imola. The weekend is predicted to be significantly more difficult than in Spain. With its long straights and low-speed corners, it's not a track that we expect to suit our car as well as Barcelona did. No matter where the true pace of the car is this weekend, we will aim to maximise our results. The characteristics of the circuit will also provide further opportunities to learn about the W14 and feed into our development path. Will they be able to put up the fight against the Red Bulls, or should they focus on a podium spot during the race? In the most recent race in Spain, they look more of a threat to Red Bull than they have done so far this season. So, should they just change their focus to beating Red Bull, instead of trying to become best of the rest? It's telling that a lot of people are now writing and speaking about Mercedes fighting Red Bull, instead of Ferrari or Aston Martin. But is it justified? Are Mercedes really a level above Ferrari and Aston Martin at this point of the season? Or was Spain just a one-off? One person is at least certain that Mercedes is the second best car at the moment. As Damon Hill, the 1996 Formula 1 world champion, says Mercedes has leapfrogged rivals Aston Martin and Ferrari. Mercedes started the 2023 season slowly, seeming to be the fourth fastest team in the initial rounds. Aston Martin made a jump up the grid order while Ferrari was still able to outpace Mercedes despite its own worrisome start of the year. Mercedes, on the other hand, had a solid performance in the Spanish Grand Prix last time around, scoring a double podium finish with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Because they've actually shown in the race, they've leapfrogged the threat from Aston Martin and Ferrari as well. They've actually shown that on a circuit where it really pushes a car's ability to look after its tyres and have good balance and have good air performance, it's shown that it's got the potential there. Now, all circuits are different. That's the great thing about our sport. They're not all like the Barcelona, but Barcelona is one of those places where it shows pure performance in the aero package and ability to get a balance on tyres and so forth. Which is why Max Verstappen was so dominant, but I think there's encouraging signs there for Mercedes definitely. Hamilton had previously criticised Mercedes, claiming earlier this year that the Mercedes team ignored his reservations about the W14 vehicle while it was in construction. In Barcelona though, he claims that the vehicle felt the best it had since the conclusion of the 2021 season. They've gone down a different road, as they said they would do if it was quicker, Hill added. Although James Allison said you can't just copy other people, you've got to know where you're going. So it's maybe this has unlocked more potential, but whether it's able to unlock as much potential as it needs to beat Red Bull is questionable, because I think they're stuck with a fundamental chassis that they've got underneath. But to hear Lewis say, "I've enjoyed driving the car," that's a good sign. It's also vindication for him because he's been saying, "I told you we should have done something earlier," and they've gone and done what he's been pleading with them to do, and they've seen some progress, so well done, Lewis. What do you think? Have Mercedes really leapfrogged Aston Martin and Ferrari? Or was it just a lucky shot in Barcelona? After all, Mercedes' performance there has always been good. Or was it a little taste of what's left to come? Could we see the Mercedes W14 challenging the Red Bull later this season? Something that at the start of the season seemed so impossible. But now, after the Spanish Grand Prix, looks somewhat feasible. We're not sure yet. We'll form our opinion after the next race in Canada. And what about you? Are you excited to see Mercedes challenging for race wins again? And do you think that they're able to get further to the front this season? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. One thing is certain, there seems to be a target on Red Bull's back, and everyone is trying to catch them. Let's hope the updates work wonders and we'll be treated to some spectacular racing for P1 again. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.